Welcome to the final episode of 2020 of The Monitors. On this episode, we're going to take a look at The Sound of Metal on Amazon Prime. And also we're going to jump over to Disney Plus and check out Safety. That's in our usual business on this episode of The Monitors. One of the scariest things we can face in our day-to-day existence is the loss of something we take for granted, like one of our senses. Personally, I've always been afraid of going either blind or deaf, and both is just unimaginable. I remember that Gil Gerard did a TV movie in his post-Buck Rogers days called Hear No Evil. It was a story about a cop who loses his hearing after an explosion. I scarcely remember the TV movie, but I do remember the transition that Gerard's character Dragon goes through as he comes to terms with his hearing loss and how he goes about compensating. The Sound of Metal explores this loss as well, but this time from the perspective of a musician. This film is currently on Amazon and is the directorial debut of Darius Martyr and stars Riz Ahmed as Ruben Stone, who is of all things a heavy metal drummer who suddenly experiences a drastic hearing loss. Is that a cliche premise? Maybe. Maybe not. But in a very short period of time, Ruben is effectively deaf. The path from there is not hard to guess. Anyone in that position would feel as if their life was being ripped from them. And we can see that is very much the case as Ruben struggles to come to grips with his professional and personal life suddenly being ripped from him. Fortunately, Ruben is able to transition to the non-hearing world when his girlfriend Lou, played by Olivia Cooke, convinces him to go to a deaf community, after Ruben has pretty much demonstrated that he'll be impossible to live with and clearly needs help. The community is run by Joe, played very efficiently by Paul Raci. Joe is a bit odd, but in a very practical way. He runs the community his way, but it's obvious that that's the way that works. Ruben's journey isn't over-dramatized or glorified. Martyr's directorial style is that it doesn't really call attention to itself. His approach to the story, which has a premise that screams cliché, is to slow things down significantly and to neither romanticize nor horrify the story. It is more like he's saying, what if? So the story's grounded, and it doesn't ask us for a lot of suspension of disbelief. It feels like you're watching a real story about a man struggling with a devastating loss and trying to find where he belongs in the world again. Riz Ahmed deserves a lot of credit here, as the film rests on his performance. He's in every scene of the movie. The best thing I can say about his performance is it's honest. Ruben isn't stoic, nor is he weak. He's just a regular flawed guy trying to figure things out, and Ahmed sticks the landing. It just makes him relatable while we're on this journey with him. And the journey. Martyr smartly knew that sound, or the lack thereof, was going to play a huge factor in telling the story, and he made sure not to overlook any details. He takes the audience inside Ruben's head so we can experience his hearing loss from his perspective. He uses sounds ranging from the initial ringing of tinnitus to actually using Ahmed's own body sounds to simulate the isolation during the loss of auditory hearing. The film relies heavily on these tools but doesn't overdo it. On the surface, The Sound of Metal will feel like an art house film, but after viewing it from start to finish, I found it a sincere, unpretentious film that, as all films should, explores the human condition and just says, what if? Because it could happen to anyone. We love family dramas, and we love sports movies. Disney has a long history of releasing both, and they're adding to their considerable library with Safety. Safety is just dropped on Disney Plus and is based on the true story of Ray McElrathbey during his freshman year at Clemson University. This film is directed by Reginald Hudlund and stars Jay Reeves as McElrathbey, or Ray Ray as he is known to his teammates. You may know this story as it did make the news some years ago. McElrathbey became the legal guardian for his 11-year-old brother when their mother was struggling with substance addiction. While undertaking the daunting task of being a single parent, which is daunting all on its own, Ray has an 18-credit school schedule and is trying to sustain his practice schedule for the football team. In the film, just as Ray is getting adjusted to campus life, his academics and football and juggling all of those things, he learns that he must now take in his brother, as his mother has been incarcerated on drug charges. Rather than give up his brother Famar to the system, Ray takes him to Clemson, attempting to hide him with the help of his roommate, and then some other teammates who are all glad to help out. Eventually, Famar's presence is revealed, and Ray discloses that he's been taking care of him to his coaches, Tommy Bowden and Brad Simmons. After admonishing Ray for not sharing the situation outright, his coaches, mainly Simmons, help Ray and Famar get set up in off-campus housing and get Famar enrolled in local school. Ray's extended family, his teammates, his girlfriend, and school community all become a support network for him and Famar. Unfortunately, the NCAA has strict rules about student athletes, and Ray is forced to turn down simple kindnesses such as rides and help around the house so that there's no appearance of impropriety. Eventually, Ray is faced with the choice of remaining at Clemson and playing football or caring for his brother. Hudlund is a seasoned director who's been at it for decades. I think any number of competent directors could have told this story to Disney standards, but I think Hudlund brings something that other directors would not have. That said, the start of the film is formulaic and is almost tailor-made Disney premise. It feels like many other movie setups. Even the performances at first feel kind of wooden. But the film turns the corner about midway into the second act. First, we see some genuine moments between Ray and Faye, and the young actors deserve most of the credit for making those scenes work. No doubt under Hudlund's direction. Next, when the stakes are raised and the threat looms from the NCAA terminating Ray's eligibility, that's where the movie finds its focus. And all the performances at that point come into focus as well. Jay Reeves has some solid moments when he really shines as Ray. There's a wrenching scene that sees Ray terminating the rights of his mother, Tanya, played by Amanda Warren, so that he can assume custody of Faye. Reeves and Warren are pitch perfect, and it'll break you hard as you watch that scene. Also, when Ray addresses the NCAA, Reeves delivers a speech that's just powerful. Some of the other performances of note are Matthew Glave and James Badge Dale as coaches Bowden and Simmons. The script doesn't really provide them with an overabundance of character-building opportunities, but they make the most of what's given. Especially Dale, who Simmons is the first helping hand that Ray gets in the movie. Hunter Sansone is also good as Ray's roommate and teammate, Daniel Morelli. Miles Burris gets an honorable mention as the seemingly antagonistic but ultimately misunderstood upperclassman Keller. Corinne Fox checks the box of the girlfriend Casey. And of course, Thaddeus J. Mixon. Mixon manages to strike the balance of restless, somewhat rebellious, to very smart and strong Famar. It must also be said that Ray and Faye work on screen because clearly Reeves and Mixon have great chemistry. Disney sort of marketed this movie as a sports film, but it really isn't. Football plays a key part in the story, of course, but the story is less of a football movie than Rudy. It's about family. The story reinforces that old mantra that it takes a village to raise a child. Also, like Rudy, it celebrates the determination and sacrifice of a young man to play a game that he loves at the school of his choice. Unlike Rudy, Ray McElrathbey has more on the line. He's determined to do everything he can to remain at Clemson to play football and get his education, but he's made a commitment to take care of his brother. As older brother, as father, as whatever he needs to be. Ray's commitment to Faye and Ray's support from his extended Clemson family makes this a family drama if ever there was one. Check this one out when you can. It's definitely worth it. And after, look up Ray McElrathbey. His true story is even more inspiring than the movie. And who's saying what today? that's going to be it for 2020. Thanks for sticking with me. We're going to come back and do this in early 2021. When we do, we're going to have a few changes. When I rebranded as the Monitors, I didn't want to spend too much time picking apart the works of other people. But that said, you still want to know if something's worth seeing or not, and we all have things that we like and don't like. So I'll give you a yay or a nay, just to let you know whether or not I think you should see it and what my reasoning is for liking it or disliking it. Meanwhile, you guys all have a safe and blessed Christmas and a happy New Year. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in 2021. Peace.